Thanks for joining us today. Last week I received some photos from an old family friend via email. I don't recall ever seeing these photos before, but I couldn't believe how emotional they made me feel. Over one in particular, I just could not stop crying. There in the midst of a birthday party, I'm leaning back in my dad's arms. I don't have any memory of this day in my mind, but there it is in full colour. My dad was a strong man. He was a sergeant in the army and a war veteran. At the time of this picture, he would have been 38 and not long back from Vietnam. He, like anyone who goes to war, bore the scars of that war. But to me, he was just my dad. The idea of leaning back into my dad's arms is not something I recall doing very often, and I doubt whether there was any planning that went with it. This photo shows a moment caught in time, completely unrehearsed and unposed. My face in the photo though looks like it's the most natural thing to do. Recently in church, I watched as a little girl who'd been busy playing came running over to her dad who was talking to his friend and jumped into his arms. And for about 5 minutes she just laid there, leaning back in her dad's arms while her dad continued talking. It was so natural, it was so lovely. And it, like the photo that I received via email, reminded me of the verse in Deuteronomy 33:27a that says, "The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms." What an incredible scripture that is. Resting is not always an easy concept for most of us, and we often think that we can battle the storms of life under our own steam. Not one of us can live this life alone, and if we are true to ourselves, we know that somewhere along the line we're going to need some assistance. We know that that's true. We know it. We may not want to admit it. This scripture reminds us that God's outstretched arms are at once welcoming and caring, loving and merciful, strong and protective. He carries us and He defends us against the enemy. This is the God who came to the world as a person and laid down His life for us. He's not someone who is away from us. The Bible tells us that He's a God near at hand. He understands all the things that we go through, and at any moment He is ready to encircle us and keep us safe. This scripture shows us the timeless God who provides a safe place for us. He is the one who helps us when temporal things that plague us and the enemy that lurks and the fears that get us down can be oh so consuming. But in His arms we find a strong and safe place. We don't have time to delve into all the nitty-gritty of this scripture. There's so much that we could get out of it. But just to talk to it about it on the face value, I'll read it to you again. It says, "The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms." I pray that you will be encouraged today and that this will be a good week for you. If you are struggling, why don't you connect in with us and we will pray for you. God bless you this morning.